Hello, students. How are you today? And welcome to our second day of word problems using linear equations. So we're going to solve two more types of problems today, but we will start out with our do now, where we will, after we've talked about resolutions all week, we will actually create a personal accomplishment goal. And we talked a lot about why these are goals for us, not resolutions. So we have two more types of applications that we will work on today. So our essential questions will ask, how do I solve an application when I'm given a sample point and a rate of change? And remember, the rate of change, we talk about m, the slope. And the sample point, of course, will be in XY format. And then the second type of problem we will do today are problems where we are given 2 points, and you'll recognize those fairly easily, I think. So our assignment will be, when we watch this video, to complete 12 problems. And I want you to be very careful as you do these, when you decipher which type of word problem you are dealing with, when you decide which formula to apply as you solve these problems. We will complete our exit ticket, which will talk about these two types of applications, the sample point and rate of change problems, and the two sample point problems. Our homework tonight will be homework 12, linear equation word problems. There are 10 problems there. So please read these every once in a while. They're good for you. I do change them from time to time, but these are the things that enable you to be very successful in algebra. So we're going to have some spirit days coming up. We just found out about those. And tomorrow is team and university day. So I try to remember to wear some gear from where I went to school. Remember, our Unit 4 test is Thursday and Friday. And also, I have that alternative assignment available. But you really need to let me know by today. Beginning Wednesday, January 13th, we will have all 7 periods of the day. You will dial into a meeting all day long, and I'll make sure I update the calendar. And make sure your camera is working and that you have a whiteboard and dry erase marker. I understand some people will be coming after school today to pick those up. Make sure you have your notes. Make sure you have everything you need, or email me otherwise. This is the flyer about Spirit Day. You have that available to you in Teams. Remember, our do now and our exit are done in Teams. All the other work is done on paper. So here's our New Year's resolution that we need to make. This time in math class, we're making a personal accomplishment goal. I know mine, I think, is going to be the same one I make every year, lose weight. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, but I often seem to gain it back. But I have another personal accomplishment goal I'm going to make too. It's a career goal. So we'll work on that. We'll come back to your exit ticket. But let's get started with these problems. We're starting down here with the point and slope problems. Okay, and we'll use these when the problem gives a sample point and a rate of change. So that would be an XY point and a rate of change. And that's our slope, M. Oh, let's get started. First we have Eagle Bay, it costs $12 per hour. Right away I can tell that's my rate of change, okay? That's my M. It costs $12 per hour to rent a canoe. Nate and his friends rented a canoe for 4 hours and they paid $68. Write and solve a linear equation to find the cost to rent the canoe for 7 hours. Okay, remember, we have a two-part problem here. Write an explicit equation and solve that equation. So we have our rate of change, which is the $12 per hour. We have our sample point, which is 4 hours, costs $68. So 4 is our X value, 68 is our Y value. We start by solving these problems using the point-slope formula. So point-slope formula, y minus y1 equals x times the m times the quantity of x minus x1. Okay, and we're going to call this our x1, y1. So we start out with y minus 68, which is our y1. So y minus 68 equals our slope, which is 12, times the quantity of x minus 4. Because we have a positive 4 here, we have a subtraction in the formula. So we'll first distribute the 12 through to that quantity in parentheses. Y minus 68 equals 12x minus 48. Because 12 times negative 4 is negative 48. We'll add 68 to each side of the equation because we're going to isolate y. So we have y equals 12x plus 20. Okay, so this is the first question. Write a linear equation. Now we have to find the cost to rent the canoe for 7 hours. Well, that's going to be our x. So we have y equals 12, and we'll make that substitution, x plus 20, and the x will be 7, and 12 times 7 plus 20 equals $104. So first we use the point-slope formula. Then once we have a slope-intercept formula, you'll recognize this is part 1 of the answer. We use that slope-intercept formula, substituting the new information to solve the second part of the problem. So let's try another one. Excuse me. A construction company charges $18 per hour. I see that per. I know that's my slope. That's my rate of change, 18. So a construction company charges $18 per hour for debris removal, plus a one-time fee for the use of the trash dumpster. The total fee for 8 hours of service was $219. Okay, so there's our point. Write and solve a linear equation to find the one-time fee for the trash dumpster. Okay, a little bit different than the other problem. But first, we'll start out with a slope, our rate of change, which is 18, and our sample point, which is 8, 219. And we'll use the point-slope formula. So y minus y1, which is 219, equals m, which is 18, times the quantity of x minus x1, which is 8. And then we'll distribute, which will give us y minus 219 equals 18x. And then 18 times negative 8 is negative 144. And then we'll add 219 to each side so that we can isolate y. And our slope-intercept equation will be y equals 18x plus 75. Now we have to find out what the one-time fee is. In order to find out what the one-time fee is, what we need to do is remove any hours of service from the problem. Therefore, our x, if we're going to remove all the hours of service, our x in this case will be 0. So I'm going to substitute 0 for x. Well, if I substitute 0 for x, don't I just have $75? I'll show you how that works. Y equals 18 times 0 plus 75. Okay, 18 times 0 is 0. Y equals 75, or in this case, $75 is the one-time fee. So we've solved both parts of this problem. We've written the equation and we've solved it, finding out what that one-time fee is for the trash dumpster. That's the second part of the problem. So why don't you try number 11 and 12, see if you can do those yourself, and then come back to the video. So go ahead and pause the video and then come back to it. Okay, I hope you paused the video. I hope you tried these on your own. Our next problem is about cable service. A company offers premium cable service for $39.95 per month. That's our rate of change. We see that word per? Our M equals 39.95. Plus, there's a one-time setup fee. This is a little bit like the dumpster. The total cost for setup and 6 months service is $264.70. That's our sample point. 6 months for $264.70, 264.70. Write and solve. So the first thing is to write the equation, then we'll solve the linear equation to find the total cost for 2 years of service. So remember, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1, and this is our x1 and our y1 point. So y minus $264.70 equals the slope, which is 39.95 cents, times the quantity of x minus 6. Now, when we distribute the 39.95 through the quantity x minus 6, we have y minus $264.70 equals 39.95 x minus 239.70, because 39.95 times negative 6 is negative 239.70. Now we'll add 264.70 to both sides of the equation so that we can isolate the y. Do it exactly as I've done it. Careful with your decimals. And y will equal 39.95 x plus 25. Now, we have to find the total cost for 2 years of service. So 2 years of service, 2 will be our x. So y equals 39.95 x. Instead of x, we substitute that 2 plus 25. And when we evaluate 39.95 times 2 and then add 25 to it, we end up with $983.80. And 80 cents. And we use 2 decimal places because we are dealing with money. So these are the 2 answers. We wrote the equation, part 1. We solved it for 2 years of service, part 2. That's a lot of money to spend to watch TV. Use some of that time doing your homework. Okay, let's move on to the home security problem. Again, I hope you've tried this on your own. So home security company provides security systems for $5 per week. And I see that word per. I know that's my rate of change, but that is my slope. Plus, they have an installation fee. The total fee for 12 weeks of service is $210. That's our sample point. 12 is my X value, 210 is my Y value. Now we will write and solve a linear equation to find the cost of the installation fee. And this is going to be very similar to the earlier problem we did with the dumpster. We're going to end up using substituting 0 for X. But meanwhile, let's apply the point slope formula. Y minus Y1, which is 210, equals the slope, 5, times the quantity of X minus 12. And then we'll distribute 5 through X minus 12. Y minus 210 equals 5X minus 60. Then we'll add 210 to both sides of the equation. And then we'll have our slope-intercept form of y equals 5x plus 150. Now, because we have to find the cost of the installation fee, we're not doing a certain number of years. That means if we're doing just the cost of the fee with no service whatsoever, then that means we're going to substitute a 0 for x. So y equals 5 times 0 plus 150, and obviously y equals 150. So that's the cost of the setup fee. Now the next group of problems that we're going to do, or the last type in this unit, these are the 2-point problems. We're going to use the slope formula, the point slope formula, and then the slope-intercept formula. So these are a little bit more work. We use this method when the problem gives 2 sample points. So we're going to have an x1, y1, and an x2, y2. So use when the problem gives 2 sample points. So we will have an x1, y1, and we will have an x2, comma, put my comma there, y2. So you'll recognize these problems, though. Let's read the first one, number 13. To surf the internet for 15 minutes at an airport costs $4.05. For 40 minutes, it costs $5.80. Write and solve a linear equation to find the cost of surfing the web for 1 hour. Now, we are given the first 2 sample points in minutes, but we're asked to solve the equation for 1 hour. This is a very typical gotcha with these kinds of problems. You'll be given some information in one quantity, but then you're solving in another quantity. One thing we're going to have to do is this 1 hour, we're going to have to convert that to minutes. We know that 1 hour is 60 minutes. So please keep that in mind. You'll see that with quarts and gallons or feet and miles. You have to keep your unit of measure consistent throughout the problem to get a correct answer. So let's look at these 2 sample points. First, we have 15 and 4.05. So that's our x1, y1. And then the second point is 40. $5.80, 5.80. First thing we need to do is find the slope. So find the slope. And how do we do that? With the slope formula. Okay. Y y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So this will be my, let's change our color here. This will be our x1, y1, and this will be our x2, y2. So we have y2 minus y1, which will be 5.80 minus 4.05 divided by x2 minus x1, which would be 40 minus 15. And when we subtract and simplify, in the numerator we have 1.75, in the denominator we have 25. And because I'm working with decimals, I'm going to go ahead and convert this to a decimal. You can use your calculators to help you, online calculators, and that would give me 0.07. I'm working in the same number of decimal places that I'm given in the problem, plus it's a money problem. So the first thing I did was I found the slope. So this is now our m, our slope. Remember, this was m equals. So m equals 0.07. So now I'm going to go ahead and use the point slope formula. I have slope. I'm going to take a point. The point that I'm going to take is this first point right here. And remember, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. So y minus y1, which is 4.05, equals m, which is my 0.07, times the quantity of x minus 15, which is my x1 here. I'm using this point that I'm circling in green. And then I distribute. Always with the point slope formula, you distribute right away. Y minus 4.05 equals 0.07x, and 0.07 times negative 15 is negative 1.05. Now I'll add 4.05 to both sides of the equation. Be careful that you line up your decimals when you do this kind of work. So that will cancel. We have y equals 0.07x plus 3, because negative 1.05 plus 4.05 is positive 3. So this is the first part of the problem done. Write a linear equation. Then we have to substitute for that 1 hour, which we've converted to 60 minutes. This is our new x. So y equals 0.07 times 60 plus 3. And if you multiply 0.07 times 60 and add 3, you will see that y equals $7.20. So these problems take a little bit of work, but if you work slowly and carefully and really look for the information that you need, substitute it correctly, you can be very successful with these. I've done these for a long time, and I found this to be a really good, solid way to teach them. So now we've got a problem about the boiling temperature of water. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So we've got a set of numbers for boiling points. It freezes at 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. If the weather forecaster says it will be 25 Celsius today, write and solve a linear equation. So we're going to write an equation and solve it, 2 parts to this answer, to find out what Fahrenheit temperature this is. So there is a formula for converting these, but we're not going to use that. We're going to use this algebra to do it. So we have our 2 points. Our first point, x1, y1, will be 100, 212, and 0, 32. So that is the freezing and boiling points with Celsius and Fahrenheit. So now we'll use the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1. So 32 minus 212 divided by 0 minus 100. We're going to end up with negative numbers, but we'll end up positive because a negative divided by negative is 100. So 32 minus 212 is negative 180. 0 minus 100 is negative 100, which would equal positive 8, positive 1.8. Okay? Negative times a negative will give us a positive. So we end up with 1,880 divided by 100, which when we convert it to a decimal is 1.8. Now that's our slope. So our m equals 1.8. Now we're going to use the point slope formula. Y minus, and our y1 is 32. y2 minus y1, I'm sorry, y minus y1. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use this set of points. I should have mentioned that. Now, so that will give us y minus y1, 32, equals the slope, 1.8, times the quantity of x, minus 0. And why did I choose this point here? Because it's easy. Smaller numbers are better numbers. Always choose the easier numbers. All right, so we distribute. Y minus 32 equals 1.8x, and that's it. 1.8 times 0 is 0. We don't need to put minus 0. It's just 1.8x. So this is the first part of the problem solved. We've got our almost. We just have to move the 32 over. Sorry about that. Let me just add the 32. There we go. Y equals 1.8x plus 32. All right, now we've done the first part. We've written our linear equation. Now, we need to solve for when it's 25 degrees Celsius. So this is our new x. That's the new information. That's that 25 degrees Celsius. So let's go ahead and use the 25 degrees in this slope-intercept equation. Y equals 1.8 times 25 plus 32. And if you multiply 1.8 times 25 and add 32, you will get 77. So that means it's 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's the second part of the problem. So try the next two on your own, why don't you? And then come back to the video. Okay, so I hope you worked on this car problem. There is a little bit of a trick to this. I think you'll get it though. The value of a car decreases at a constant rate. Okay, that's the same every year. It's not going to depreciate $1,000 one year and $500 in another year. Usually they do not depreciate at a constant rate, but for the purposes of this problem, this car is going to depreciate or decrease in value at a constant rate. After 3 years, the value of the car is $15,000. Okay, so that's our first point. And our second point, after 2 more years, the value of the car is $11,000. Okay, there's my two sets of x and y. So write and solve, two-part problem, a linear equation to find the value of the car after 8 years. So let's use the slope formula, and we'll have our x2 minus x1, so 11,000 minus 15,000 divided by 2 minus 3 sorry, 5 minus 3. Let's see, after 2 years, 2 more years. Okay. This is a very typical thing that happens, and I want you to be very careful with this. I almost made this mistake. It says after 2 more years. So we have 3 plus 2 equals 5. So 5 minus 3. Don't make that mistake. Very typical mistake you see in problems. I'm glad we had a chance to point that out. So on the numerator, we have negative 4,000. In the denominator, we have 2, and that simplifies to negative 2,000. Now, we are going to use this slope of negative 2,000. It's a negative slope, which makes sense when something depreciates. The graph of its depreciation would be negative, and we'll use the point slope formula. So we'll have y minus, and I'm going to use this point right here, y minus 11,000 equals the slope of negative 2,000 times the quantity of x minus 5. So let's distribute the negative 2,000 through x minus 5. Y minus 11,000 equals negative 2,000x minus 10,000, or plus 10,000. The negative times a negative is a positive, plus 10,000. And let's add 11,000 to each side of the equation. So that we can isolate x, and y will equal negative 2,000 x plus 21,000. So that's the first part of the equation, the first part of the problem done. Now we need to go ahead and take that and substitute for x the 8 years. So y equals negative 2,008 instead of x plus 21,000. And when we multiply negative 2,000 times 8, we have negative 16,000 plus 21,000, which equals 5,000. So the car is worth $5,000 at the end of 8 years. That's how it's depreciated. And then the last one for this group, and then we have 4 more. Customers of a satellite dish company must pay for installation of the dish and a monthly fee for service. After 6 months, Ryan has paid $594. After 11 months, he's paid $989. Pretty expensive. Write and solve a linear equation to find the cost for installation. Remember, when we're finding any initial value like this, we have to think that our x is going to be equal to 0, because we're removing the number of months from this, and we're just looking up for that initial fee. We're finding the y-intercept, actually, the b value. So let's list our 2 points. First, we have 6 and 594. And our next point is 11 and 989. And we'll use the slope formula. So it will be 989 minus 594 divided by 11 minus 6, which would be in the numerator 395 divided by 5, which equals 79. So our slope is 79. Now we'll use the slope and a point, and I'm going to pick the first point, 6,594. So y minus 594 equals m, or 79, times the quantity of x minus 6. Then I distribute the 79 through the quantity in parentheses, and I have y minus 594 equals 79x minus 474. And if I add 594 to each side in order to isolate x, I end up with y equals 79x plus 120. Now, for the third part, for the second part of the problem, actually the third problem, we're going to use the value of 0 for x. So y equals 79 times 0 plus 120. Well, 79 times 0 is 0. That means the initial setup cost for installation is $120. Let's fix that dollar sign a little bit. And then here's the first part. So remember, when it says write and solve, we have two things that are expected. Okay, now we're in a place where we're going to see if you can determine the type. Let's see if you can tease out what's going on here with these problems. So in the first one, or number 17, it says Kate bought $23.40 worth of 2 types of birdseed. Thistle birdseed sells for $1.60 per pound, and wild birdseed sells for 95 cents per pound. If she bought 12 pounds of wild birdseed, write and solve a linear equation to find the amount of thistle birdseed she purchased. Okay, we need to define x and y. This is a problem that relates to things. We're relating thistle birdseed to wild birdseed. So those are going to be our x and y. And we're going to use standard form of an equation to solve this, which will be ax plus by equals c. Standard form. So what are the two things we're relating? Our x will be our thistle, and our y will be our wild birdseed. So altogether, Kate bought $23.40 worth of birdseed. So the thistle was $1.60. So 1.60x plus the wild, which is cheaper, 0.95, so that's 0.95y, equals altogether the $23.40 that she spent. So that's our first part of this problem done. It said to write an equation. Well, we've done that right here. Now we have to solve it for 12 pounds. Okay, so let's change our color. We're going to solve it for 12 pounds of wild birdseed. And that will tell us how many pounds, the amount of thistle birdseed she purchased. So they're giving us wild, we solve for thistle. So the wild in this problem is our given. And we're finding out how many pounds of thistle. We're not finding out prices here. Let's keep that straight. We're finding out how many pounds. So we don't know x. So we will have 1.60x plus 0.95. But when it comes to y, it says in the problem 12 pounds. And that equals $23.40. So let's continue to evaluate. 1.60x plus 0.95 times 12 is 11.4. And I'm going to put the 0 there because we're working with money. Equals $23.40. We have to isolate for x. So let's go ahead and move the 11.4 to the other side of the equation. So we'll subtract 11.40 and from each side. And we have 1.60x equals 12. I'm going to move that up here because I'm running out of room. 1.60x equals 12. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 1.60, and x will equal 7.5. And it's not money now. It's this point we're solving for pounds, so I have a zero there. I can just drop the zero. So she bought 7.5 pounds, excuse me, of thistle seed. Actually, I should rewrite that to be pounds. 7.5 pounds of thistle seed. Now, students, if you were to take the 7.5 and substitute it for x and solve for y, what should you end up with? You should end up with the 12, because it works in either direction. So that's the type where we relate two things, and we called that the type 2 problem, which we did the other day. Okay, in the next problem, Jeff is keeping track of his weight over several weeks. After 2 weeks, he weighs 194 pounds. After 6 weeks, he weighs 186 pounds. It's a nice slow weight loss, so I'll keep that off. Write and solve a linear equation to find Jeff's weight after 12 weeks. Now, we're assuming he's going to continue to lose at the regular rate. So what we have here is 2 points. Okay, this is the last type of problem we just did, the type 4 problem. We have 2 points. The 2 points are 2, 194 and 6, 186. So we need to find the slope. So y2 minus y1 equals x2 minus x1. So 186 minus 194 divided by 6 minus 2 equals negative 8 over 4, which equals negative 2. So our slope equals negative 2. We'll get back to that. Now we use the point slope formula. Y minus, and I'm going to use the point 2, 194. Y minus 194 equals the slope of negative 2 times the quantity of x minus 2. And then I distribute, which gives me y minus 194 equals negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. I'll add 194 to both sides of this equation. And I have y equals negative 2x plus 198. Now that's the first part. It says write and solve. Well, we wrote a linear equation, and that's in slope-intercept form. Now I'm going to take that slope-intercept form and I'm going to substitute for x the 12 weeks. So y equals negative 2, and my x is substituted with a 12, plus 198. And when I multiply negative 2 times 12, I have negative 24. And when I add 198, my y will equal 174 pounds. So that was the 2-point type of problem, the type 4. Last 2 problems. A landscape supply business charges $35 to deliver mulch. The cost of the mulch is $29 per cubic yard. Write and solve a linear equation to find the cost of having 6 cubic yards of mulch delivered to this site. Here we have a slope, $29 per, there's our key, cubic yards, so our M equals 29, and we have that starting point, that delivery fee, that's our B value of 35, okay? So here we have a slope and a starting point. So first thing we will do is just simply write a slope-intercept equation. So y equals, well, what's the formula? Y equals mx plus b. In this case, y equals 29x plus 35. I just need to substitute 6 for x. Y equals 29 times 6 plus 35, and when I multiply 29 times 6 and add 35, y equals $209. So we wrote the equation, we solved the equation. It's the two parts to the answer. So the last problem, let's just, to go back to 19, we had slope and a starting point. Okay, last problem, number 20. Haley used a birthday check her mother gave her to start a savings account. Well, good for her. She plans to save $25 per month as well. After 9 months, Haley has $300. Write and solve a linear equation to find the original check amount from Haley's mother. We're finding out how much Mom gave Haley for her birthday. Well, so we've got a point here, a sample point, 300. We also have a slope. See the word per? Our M is 25, so we've got slope, and we have a sample, we have a rate of change. That's the $25 per month. And we also have a starting point. So our starting point is or we have a sample point, not a starting point. I should call it a sample point. I think that's the more accurate way to write it, a sample point. Because her starting point would have been 1 month, and we'll find out how much Mom gave her. So we've got a sample point of x value of 9, a y value of 300. So we're going to use the point slope formula, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. So y minus y1, which is our 300, equals the slope times the quantity of x minus 9. And we distribute. When we distribute, we have y minus 300 equals 25x minus 225, and we add 300 to both sides of this equation so that we can isolate y, and y equals 25x plus 75. So it said to write and solve an equation. We did the first part. We've got a nice equation here in slope-intercept form. Now, if we want to know how much Mom gave her, we need to eliminate all of the savings. That means we need a starting point of 0. So this is kind of like the, let's see, what were some of the problems we had where we had a starting point of 0? The security system problem was like that. We also had a problem with construction company and debris removal. They rented a dumpster. If we want to find the initial amount of anything, then our x is going to equal 0. So we're going to substitute 0 for here, and I think you already see what's going to happen. I think you already know how much Mom gave her, but we'll go through the exercise. Y equals 25 times 0 plus 75. So y equals 25 times 0 is 0. Y equals $75. which is the amount of money Haley's mom gave her. So let's go back, and let's work on that exit ticket. You've worked very hard today. So how do I solve an application when I'm given a sample point and a rate of change? Well, if we have the sample point, okay, and then we have a rate of change, the first thing we do is use the slope-intercept, use the sample point and rate of change in the slope-intercept formula. So we use, point-slope formula. Use the point-slope formula. And that is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. Okay, and after we have solved for an explicit equation, which will be in slope-intercept form, then we will just substitute as necessary. To find any specific value that the problem asks for. Now, when I have an application where I'm given two sample points, it's a little more complicated. First, I use the slope formula to find the slope. And the slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 divided by the quantity of x2 minus x1. After I use the slope formula to find the slope, I use the point slope formula. Which is our y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. Okay, and then I substitute any information as needed to solve any further questions in the problem. So remember, let's get this work, these pages we just did. If you're smart, you'll turn them in right away. Then you're done with it. And then you'd have your homework number 12 tonight, which is 10 problems. So be mindful of the exam coming up later in the week. Keep practicing hard. I know that with lots of practice, you'll be great.